Yo, listen up, here's the story about a little guy that lives in a blue world. And all day and all night and everything he sees is just blue. Like him, inside and outside. I'm blue, I've been deed, I've been died, I've been deed, I've been died, I've been deed, I've been died, I've been deed, I've been died.
But sadly, we can't bounce to Jimmy anymore. So, as the nature of the world spins on, we have to find new things to hurt ourselves with.
I don't understand why we found the need to search for more deliberately, but, you know, that's the nature of the beast. And the beast is an Extremosaurus, and we gotta lock it up in a cage, because we're talking about what?
Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends.
I know what you're thinking. Didn't you guys talk about Foster's Home in My Gym Partner's a Monkey and say it would be a death sentence to watch it?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I have committed a capital offense. The judge told me that I was allowed to choose the means by which I was going to die, and I said doing what I do best. Watching shit cartoons.
Why Foster's Home? Well, there are just so many questions about imaginary friends. What happens to them after you grow up? Where do they come from? Do they age?
This show dares to think about it.
Does it? I don't think it does.
It dares to ask the question and then subsequently never give a satisfying answer, which only leaves you, the viewer, to wonder where you should not have wondered. To wander where you should not have wandered.
And you may be asking yourself, is this just one episode? Don't worry, we bought the entire 6 seasons on GameCube Advance, and we have to somehow get through it.
So Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends was a movie, was it not?
Originally, Foster's Home had a pilot that was essentially a 3-part episode movie. And it was pretty good, actually. We haven't watched it yet.
The thing is that I remember it being good, and I remember shows that are bad, which turn out to be bad, so I feel like I've got a slightly reliable memory for these sort of things, and the fact that Agent 5 can concur...
So Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends came out in 2005 with the 3-parter movie. This was pretty good. It then turns out somewhat similar to Jimmy Neutron, where the movie was actually really good, but then the show is radically different for kind of no reason. The show itself is kind of pretty painful to get through. Like, it's sort of this illusion that, oh, Foster's Home, it was really popular. There were cool characters, the art style was good. What are the plots of the episode?
Pain. The thing is, I remember being a kid. I remember exactly where I was in my school hallway when I came up with a thought that I don't think I like Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Or, I couldn't even think of it in that context. My brain had not developed the critical mindset needed to say that I disliked a piece of media. I just remembered thinking in that particular place, is it normal for a show's plot to make you feel bad for watching it?
I've had thoughts about that show too. I enjoy the movie a lot, but random episodes, and maybe not even random, most of the episodes were not that entertaining. Were kind of painful, and so many episodes are written by sadists, which have really bad awkward humor, and there's no good things that happen. There are barely any jokes, and it's just a lot to get through.
When do you think you first were able to plant that seed in your mind that maybe the show wasn't good? As an adult, do you think, or
cheese?
Even as a child?
Cheese.
Cheese?
Cheese.
Oh, fuck cheese. We'll get back to cheese.
Big pin into cheese.
God willing, we survive long enough to see cheese, if the UN will stay my execution.
Plot of the episode. It is Madame Foster's birthday. Everyone is starting to throw a party for her. Is it a surprise party?
Allegedly. They say it's a surprise party.
What they do? Okay, anyway. Mr. Harriman sends Frankie on an errand to go get streamers because, of course he does. It's some anal thing that he cares about. And
Mr. Harriman's really into anal. I can't believe I led with that. Carry on.
And Blue is like, Frankie, let me go with the mall. And so he does, but he drags Matt, Coco, Eduardo, and Will also. Are they called the gang? Okay, he drags the gang along with them to the mall. Essentially, shenanigans ensue because Blue wants to get a present for Madame Foster and wants to get a massage chair, but then like decide that's too expensive because he has like $10. And
he's got four.
He did steal that from everyone else. For the record, those $10.
Listen, it's $4.
And he wants to build a massage chair. So he kind of goes on this like weird errand. Everyone gets split up. Frankie like is desperately trying to find everyone through the shenanigans, and Blue is like attacked by a million Paul Blarts for his many, many crimes, until they just have to fucking bail, and they come back to the party super like hours later, and they suck. But then it turns out Coco bought a massage chair with her many funds that she got from her 3 part-time jobs while they were at the mall for a few hours.
Let's talk about Madame Foster. Madame Foster, she is the lovable matriarch of the house, she is the creator of Mr. Harriman. Mr. Harriman is sort of the antagonist of the show, except in episodes where Blue is the antagonist. So
that's actually a pretty good way of putting it. So Mr. Harriman, he's a large, like, human-sized rabbit man with, like, butlery accessories, except pants. He doesn't wear pants. And in this episode, he gets on Frankie's case about streamers.
Because all good parties have streamers. He's really into streamers. I wrote down in my notes, Mr. Harriman is an e-boy, and you begged me not to say that.
What does that mean?
Mr. Harriman is canonically an e-boy, and we will see that in a later episode, okay? But
because he likes streamers?
No, because he goes on the internet and he fucking sells himself, he whores himself out to the public to sell human beings. Well, technically they're not human beings, they're imaginary beings.
And then in the first scene we see Frankie. Frankie is the 22-year-old redhead. She's sort of like this one-man army who does like all the work in the house. She does like all the cooking and all the cleaning, and there's no other staff. And I don't know if that's just like we didn't want to make more characters that did various jobs, or like we specifically wanted like just one daughter, like granddaughter of Madame Foster to exist, and she has to do everything Snow White style.
They repeatedly reference that the Foster's home for imaginary friends, etc., is constantly on the verge of bankruptcy, and they can only afford to have one staff member, and they barely pay her. And basically, her life is suffering, and her grandmother allows it.
Frankie's interesting. Do we want to talk about the first thing you start saying when we
what?
Her?
What?
First thing, we roll up to Foster's home. We see Frankie, and you're like, oh, I want Frankie to give me a hug.
Well, she gives someone else a hug at one point. and then you were
we all want to fuck Frankie, Connor. We get it.
She's cute! And she's single. She's of age. I see nothing wrong with wanting to fuck Frankie.
Okay, so there are many things to talk about this, but we don't get to talk about those here because in like a viewing session or two, there's the Everyone's Horny for Franking episode, so I'm sure we'll get there.
Okay, I just wanted to fucking let you know that I didn't want to be attracted to Frankie.
So true. So, okay, there's a butthole.
There is a, just reading through the note, like, yep, there's a butthole. A balloon inflates, a balloon imaginary friend inflates a balloon, and because it's a balloon, they get to put a butthole on him because it's the knot of the balloon. And that's the first thing we see in this show. We see a butthole! But speaking of assholes, Mr. Harriman, he's organized the party. And by organizing, I mean Frankie's doing all the hard work and he's watching. But
as he tends to.
He tells her that they didn't have streamers or something, and that all parties need to have streamers, and he demands that she goes to the mall so that she can get streamers. And she's got no autonomy. Mr. Harriman is her boss? ? I really don't know how the organizational structure of this facility works, but...
No, here's how it works. Mr. Harriman is the boss.
You do what he says. Madam Foster doesn't give a shit.
Madam Foster...
She just does things. Madam Foster is in the house, prowling around like a feral beast, looking for things to do.
Do you know how fucked up it is from our dialogue that I thought that sentence was going to go, she's just prowling around looking for dick. It's just like, I thought immediately that's where you were going with that, because that's where we go so often, where it's like Madam Foster, the rampant sex machine of this house, is stalking around like some feral sex fiend. But that's not canon.
Yeah.
That might be canon. We don't know if it's canon. Point being, Harriman, dickhead, insane. Madam Foster could stop him. She doesn't. She's a fucking menace to society. Harriman demands Frankie goes to the mall. She tries to. Blue asserts himself.
Blue teleports into shot and says, Frankie, I want to go to the mall. And she's like, no, but then he's like, come on. And she's like, okay, I guess. I don't want this to happen, but I guess I'm doing this. Blue says, I don't have any money. And then brings the gang and says, give me your money.
He shakes them down for everything they have. They're not allowed to spend money at the mall. He demands everything they have, which amounts to the previously mentioned $4 and change. I don't understand why Frankie agreed to let him come when he didn't have money, because the point was he was supposed to get Madam Foster a gift. Then she watches him shake down the person who created him, which is kind of like if you went up to God and mugged him. But Mac's a shitty god. Like, he could, like, smite Blue. You ever think about all the times that Mac could have just, like, imagined a gun and shot Blue?
Oh man, I don't think people are allowed to imagine guns. Only Gook can do that.
If Goo imagined a gun, we'll ask the questions about Goo when she comes. It's the thing is, if you look at a shot of the show, you would think that this has got the fucking best cast in the world. Like, all the characters have these really disparate body types and colorations, and even these sort of like general arrangements of anatomy that makes you think that this show is really imaginative. And from the movie's point of view, yeah, it is honestly a very great show to look at. I think we need to give some credit early on. Fantastic visual design.
Yeah, like, Wilt is really cool, Eduardo's design is cool, Coco's, despite being this, like, a purposely designed random assortment of bird shape, like, very good. Like, even like, the house, it looks good. It evokes whimsy.
Like, there's this sort of painterly style they have for all the backgrounds, and even the background characters have a sort of inspired design to them.
And then we're forced to look at all of them when we are dragged to the mall.
So, right, the mall. Blue shakes down his friends. Coco doesn't have money. Where would she keep it? Don't answer that. In the eggs, of course.
Where does Blue keep it? Also, don't answer that.
Coco doesn't have money, but Frankie just demands that they all get on the bus because they've already wasted enough time. Oh boy, Frankie, if you only knew what you're getting into. So they arrive at the mall, and we immediately lose a party member, because if we had one reasonable goddamn person during any of this, the plot wouldn't happen.
So the paladin Wilt holds the door open for everyone.
Listen, that guy didn't get himself crushed to near death by a sapient basketball for you to get his name wrong. His name is Wilt.
Wilt?
He is named after...
I said Wilt.
You might have.
Possibly defeat the Father Lord.
You mean the Fire Lord?
That's what I just said.
Okay, so Wilt opens the door for the party, and then other people, like, walk through, and he's like, oh, after you. And he does that forever. He's here now. He's stuck at this door.
Some say he's still at that door. They're wrong, though. He did leave. He's gone now. You're incorrect. Stop spreading rumors. So, we're down a party member, but it's okay, because we've got Frankie, we've got Mac, we've got the forceful voice of reason, we've got the spineless one, we've got the extra spineless one in Eduardo, we've got the manic one, and then there's Blue.
Blue is a chaos agent. Case in point, he drags everyone on like a minute long shots of visual gag, quote unquote visual gags, of them like walking through the mall, and then the ending joke is like, Blue, where are we going? Oh, I don't know. I'm just looking for gifts. Should have just looked at a directory. And Frankie's sad.
It's like, yeah.
What even happens? Do they find the store? Do they not find the store? And then they split up? No, they find the party store. And Frankie's like, yay. Okay, we have 5 minutes. You guys can look at a store. Blue finds the aforementioned massage chair, realizes that it's like $4,000, and then like runs off on his own to be a destructive force into the mall.
Honestly, if you grew up while the show was getting really heavily pushed by Cartoon Network, you no doubt remember the dancing cactus sequence, where Blue just like starts making obnoxious noises, and these cacti are so vexing. Do you want to talk about the dancing cacti?
I just keep imagining Blue goes, get the fuck away from me. So
what was going? Were you being stabbed psychically?
So the cactuses, like, I actually thought they were imaginary friends until I thought about it more, just because, like, they're kind of bizarre. They just waggle back and forth whenever there is sound. It doesn't have to be music. You can just talk, according to Blue. And then, but I guess they're not. Maybe they're just, like those flowers that, like, they're solar-powered sun, like, flowers that, like, will wiggle back and forth. I guess that's what they're derived from, but, like, a different power source. And then Blue is like, oh, these wiggle. He then forces the shop worker to hold them against him as he makes his annoying sounds in order for them to wiggle to approximate a massage chair. Customer service people, they deserve better than Blue.
And I don't know if this is the first time it happens, but it's part of a running gag that Blue just assaults random employees of the mall whenever he feels like it by kicking them in the shins with the feet he doesn't have, and I could have sworn he bit one of them, but he didn't.
Doesn't bite people.
I just distinctly remember as a kid remembering how Blue, like a rabid animal, just leans forward and with a cartoon chopping sound effect, edit that in. He just like he gets ya.
No, in this episode, and not the psychic one that Connor is creating, like a new imaginary friend. This is my new friend, Blue but Rabbit.
What are you saying? Are you telling me that Blue isn't Rabbit?
60-40. So, Blue's shtick is that he kicks people in the shins and calls them rip-off artists in this episode. That's like the joke. Oh, wait. Is this where it is? No. Because at one point, there was the gang. They walked like a directory or whatever. And then like all the human people who were like working at it just like crouched down behind the desk as they walked over.
In fear. People hate and fear imaginary friends in this setting. And there's this prevalent theme of racism towards imaginary friends, which...
like, throughout the entire show, but like, I actually never noticed this one as the kid. It so feels like imaginary friends in the mall? Roll up the windows. Like, am I wrong?
I think that if they could actively refuse service to imaginary friends, and who's to say that they don't? She goes to the information desk and asks if they had an imaginary friend, and there's like this joke where like they pull up a kid who like, topically resembles Eduardo. It's kind of a funny visual gag, telegraphed a mile away. And then the reception lady says, "I'm sorry, we don't keep imaginary friends here." It's like, you don't? But if a person gets lost at a mall...
What happens if a kid has one and is just like, in the mall? Do you just say, nope, sorry kid. Sorry, no, not kid. Sorry, imaginary friend belonging to a child. Get the fuck out of the store.
They are either just left to their own devices to wander the mall, but it seems as if security... They don't profile imaginary friends necessarily, but they certainly are capable of detaining them, given that the abundance of Paul Blarts that are hunting down Blue for his numerous crimes later on. But what would they do with an imaginary friend who got separated? Clearly nothing. They just don't. They just let him cry on the floor, and the people gawk at him like he's a piece of furniture, like he's an art sculpture installed wrong.
Paul Blart comes over and is like, "I'm a big, strong security officer. Come with me," because like it's kind of treating him like a baby, because he sort of is, even though he's a giant purple man. And then Eduardo is like, I don't go with strangers. And he like yells at him and knocks him unconscious and then runs away.
Yeah, Eduardo is very physically powerful. He is intimidating when he's angry, but the poor guy's just such a softie. Like, I feel bad for Eduardo, except for the fact he is in many ways all the worst qualities of Carl Wheezer. But
oh my
he's
God.
fucking massive, incredibly powerful, incredibly neurotic, and speaks extended phrases in Spanish.
For the second there, I thought, like, the way you were saying those, you were listing the Carl speaking in Spanish randomly.
Oh, yeah, remember that episode where Carl and Sheen walked into a blender, and we got a Latino Carl? It was kind of fucking weird.
Frankie, after asking for Eduardo but getting presented the kid, Mac shows up and is like, hey, I'm a reasonable, like, person. I am lost. And then, like, this bizarre chain of events happens where Frankie's like, oh, hey, Mac, I'm glad you're here. And then, like, the receptionist lady's like, is that your mom? And Mac's like, no, I guess. And then, like, Frankie's like, okay, I'm taking him. And then she's like, you're not allowed to take this child. And Mac doesn't do anything about any of this. Mac chooses to not say, like, no, I'm with Frankie. I'm going with her. And then, like, Frankie just runs away as the receptionist is like, oh, hey, that child was kidnapped.
This lends credence to my reading of Mac as possibly having autism, where he takes statements very literally, and he doesn't often know how to respond in a way that... He doesn't often read the subtext of a question, like,
no, you're kind of like talking me into it. Like, I see it.
Is this person your mom? Like, she's like, no, she's not my mom. But he fails to understand the implicit follow-up question of, are you meant to be with this person? Is this person acting in loco parenti of you? Mac just causes this problem. I said at first that Mac causes problems on purpose, but reading him this way, it honestly is a authentic sort of portrayal. It's sympathetic, yet also shows the hardships of growing up, like, what not necessarily understood by your peers, not necessarily understanding your peers. And then fucking Blue is going around kicking people in the shins.
Blue then goes into a bootleg IKEA.
Steals a sofa cushion.
Yep, he's like, this is soft, I'll buy this cushion. Steals a cushion while leaving money in it.
Leaving $2. He was gonna leave $2.50. Decided against it. Then he gets accosted by Paul Blart, and then he starts explaining...
I think something that's relevant here is that Blue takes massive offense to being called a kid. He is not a kid. He is an imaginary friend. Ignoring the fact that he thinks that, he paid for the couch cushion, he really takes offense at the kid thing. Like, I mean, he's kid-ish.
He is 5 years old, like, chronologically.
And, like, mentally, he's, like, I don't know, 10. So, like...
Does he take kid to be a slur? There's, like, this really prevalent... Like, I'm sorry that it's so strongly on the zeitgeist here, but the themes of racism within Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends is incredibly prevalent. So he beats the shit out of the cop, doing the first ethical thing that Blue should have been doing. But
fuck him up, Blue.
We actually were cheering for Blue at that point, forgetting all the horrible things he had been doing up to this point.
The Paul Blarts, all hundreds of them, put out an APB up for imaginary friends, I guess, or maybe it was Frankie, whatever, on the gang.
As far as they know, there is this robber assaulting people, there is this possible child molester, there is a fucking demon.
Fucking Frankie.
And then there's Coco, who's doing God knows what during this whole episode. She gets hired at Bootleg Hot Dog on a Stick, but then she also becomes the reception lady's replacement, and then becomes a mall cop. But inexplicably, Coco is getting paid for all of these jobs seemingly instantly and seemingly to ludicrous degrees.
So assuming the 3 jobs And assuming that they're there for like, I don't know, 2-3 hours.
How many hundreds of dollars an hour is Coco making at these 3 odd jobs that she's able to afford this luxury massage chair, which I reiterate she could have made using her powers, because I don't know if we've explained this or not, but Coco has the ability to manifest objects out of these plastic Easter eggs, which she lays with her mind into her asshole, and creates matter autonomously, seemingly at will, but only insofar as she is able to do so to be obstinate and smug to the other characters by being as unhelpful as possible.
I honestly think that she just stole all the money out of the cash registers.
Honestly, if Coco just became a cop and then immediately stole all of the cops' like paychecks and then fled the scene, honestly, I would kind of be down for that. Like,
Coco's final odd job is the fact that she is driving the Foster's home bus at the end, which how is that related to the mall job? Or maybe she's just a good getaway driver, but regardless.
Wait a second, she was the driver? I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, no, she pulls up in the Foster's home bus and is like, Coco, 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 and like the joke is that she's a bus driver.
I didn't even register she had a 4th job, but holy fuck, that makes a lot more sense now, because she ostensibly called her fellow cops on the party, but then was also their getaway driver, which you might read as, oh, she just hopped jobs again, and she's just doing this because, it's a gig, but it's a Foster's home bus, not a public transport bus, not a bus, not like a shuttle run by the mall. This is their bus. They own this bus. Coco fucking robbed the vault, threw it in the back of the bus, went back in, paid for the chair with the stolen money, and then fucking fled the scene.
What a G, Coco. That's the big brain Coco plays we've come to expect.
Holy fuck! I'm realizing that I've read Coco entirely incorrectly this whole episode. I thought she was just like an asshole, but really she had been infiltrating the mall and robbed them blind. Do we even know if she paid for that chair?
Yeah, I don't know, man. We gotta repossess this here chair. Oh, all right, mall cop. That's okay. That's acceptable. Yoink. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
So how would she have lifted it with those airplane arms? She's fucking capable of swallowing entire objects and laying them later. What if she just fucking headbutted it all the way out? And you just imagine it slide.
No, actually, by that, she just kind of pushed it away
with her fucking scalp,
and causing massive scraping sounds across the mall.
God, this is so much better than the episode we got. Blue is trying to, put a sack of... He's trying to steal hamsters from the pet shop and put them in a sack, and then, have an old lady sit on them, and then Frankie's like, I'm gonna throttle you, you stupid piece of shit. Get in the fucking bus! Then they rescue Wilt from the purgatory of... Yeah, I recognize I didn't enunciate the T too, sue me. Of being a pushover. They convince him to abandon the door. He gets into the bus.
Thing that we have to keep in mind, as they're running away, there is, the one good joke that we did both acknowledge. So, before, when Blue was talking to the police, when they were like, hey, were you stealing couch cushions? We're looking for, the light blue imaginary friend. And Blue's like, I'm just regular Blue. Cue, all the Paul Blarts, coming around him and, debating what color he is and, naming colors. When they're running away out of the store, or mall, I guess, the guy is like, come back here, you azure punk.
That was actually an audible laugh for me.
It's a fine line. I appreciate it. The guy cares. He's an artistic Paul Blart.
He went to art school. He said this. I want to know about this art school dropout and how he ended up at the world's shittiest mall where Coco becomes a mall Santa there at one point, doesn't she? They get back to the home. It's a disappointment. They've been there for hours. Madam Foster barely gives a shit. She's so old. She's looking forward to dying. So she's just got a fuck it attitude.
That's kind of how she is read. Blue rips out a bus seat, which is a lot, but I'm not even going to bother about caring about that. And then, wiggles it and attempts to mimic a massage chair. And Madam Foster is like, it's very nice. And then Coco's like, here's my massage chair. And Madam Foster's like, fuck yeah, bitches!
If it were not as vulgar, that would be exactly what she said. She doesn't pretend at all that she prefers Coco's gift. She tells it to Blue's face. It makes him very sad. And then Coco kicks Blue.
End of episode.
It's you notice that there's no catharsis or coherent plot to any of that? It was just a bunch of stuff that happened, and then everyone was sad. Yeah. This is a constant recurring theme of the show, and I think that it will be better with these remaining episodes we have, but God, was this an unfortunate first episode. This was back when this show was new, and this was what they aired basically every other time slot they had Foster's. This one was just so incredibly depressing. We might not close every episode giving our ratings, but just to give a little bit of context to what we're doing, we are rating these as we're watching them.
So after Coco kicking Blue, Blue having his many over-advertised scenes, and the random shenanigans in the mall, 1 to 10.
Bear in mind, a 10 is a great episode of Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. It is not a 10 out of 10 episode of a TV show.
Yes, it is.
What
We haven't established the Foster scale yet.
Fine. I'm gonna say, if you're saying that it's, wait, if this is out of 10 and Breaking Bad finale .mp3 is a 10, then of course it's a 2. What are you talking about?
What are you this doesn't hurt.
Yes, it hurts me.
Okay, then it's a 2.
I despise this. It's a 2 out of 10 for me because I thought I was grading this on a curve with Foster's
it's on the children's show scale, I guess, if that matters.
It's so much worse than the average episode of a kids show. I never experienced such negative feelings towards any kids show besides this when I was younger. I genuinely detest this episode. It was a bad first impression. It's funny in hindsight thinking about Coco, the payday heist smuggler.
I mean, to be fair, I rated my gym partners a 2 because of its pain and nonsensical. So while this one technically makes more sense and isn't as painful, a 3.
The trouble with scribbles. There is a secret door. Blue very much wants to open it because he is tormented by the visions of a secret door, which seems a little much, but we'll get into that. He kind of just opens it because it's not locked one fateful night, and it's revealed that behind it there is a horde of scribbles, and they're baseball-sized, writhing black lines of incoherent imaginary friend power, and they're a blight upon the land. Matt comes in, learns about the scribbles, and everyone trying to shove them back into the door, and then decides to go on a freedom liberty rampage because he loves the rights of imaginary friends, even these incoherent, non-sentient ones, I guess. Through Blue's incredible laziness and Mac's ideas, it's learned that the scribbles can do one task if you tell them to, and they kind of just do it. Dry the dishes, wash the dishes, put the stuff away, that sort of things. Immediately, everyone grows lazy and dependent on the scribbles for doing all of the chores, and they just lie down in a stupor, a coma, because the scribbles do everything for them. Then we're oh wow, scribbles are cool, let's adopt them. And then all of them are adopted out. The end.
You say adopt. We should get into the central mechanic of this sort of an agency where parents of children who cannot make imaginary friends come to the agency to adopt instead of shop. And by shop, I mean will a creature into existence. So that's
True.
The imaginary friend can have a new child to play with, which is fucking worrying for, like, a multitude of reasons. And
Okay, quickly, the friends, do they age? Like, okay, I guess they do. Maybe they die at some point. So they're old as fuck, potentially, playing with these children?
It's like, some of these imaginary friends are explicitly adults. Like,
No, like, explicitly Wilt is, like, 30 years old. And so, like, are we just going with the assumably, like, that is, like, the core of their being? They are made to do this and can do nothing else other than, like, be, like, an imaginary friend. So it's fine. It's not weird.
The definition of imaginary is sort of stretched incredibly thin by this setting, because while the friends are created ostensibly imaginarily, they are physical, they persist, and a child can have an imaginary friend that they didn't imagine, which is just an existential nightmare.
I think you brought up a good point that is sometimes brought up in the show, but sometimes not. That this sort of, like, adopt, not shopped mentality, which does come up more because, like, kids can make them. And that, like, when Mac is talking to his classmates, they all can make them. They all can make imaginary friends. So, like, any kid can do this. So is there this, like, advertising campaign of, like, hey guys, like, stop creating new life forms?
It is odd to think that children would not accidentally create imaginary friends, especially knowing that scribbles, which are the thoughts of a child prior to gaining a rational mind, that any child could create an imaginary friend, but don't, to such a degree that imaginary friends not only have not overtaken the planet, but that it is possible to pawn off imaginary friends, suggesting that it is almost a seller's market.
The reason that the scribbles exist, as it's revealed later in the episode, is that they are actually Frankie's, like, 3-year-old imaginary friends. Like,
well, not hers specifically. She didn't make all of them.
No, she did. What are you talking about?
No, what are you fucking talking? No, she opened the door. That's what the thing is.
What? No, I really? I just interpreted that she made 1 million of them.
No, she didn't make all of them. She might have made some, but, like, the idea is that that flashback was in reference to Frankie opening the door by, like, ignoring Harriman.
Oh.
No, you're attributing, like, so much more interesting lore to this. We don't learn anything.
Oh my god, I am! I thought that there was, like, the reason Frankie doesn't have an imaginary friend was because, like, of this massive scribble event from her incredible power. Wait, you're telling me that, like, whenever scribbles are fine, they're just thrown in, like, a vacuum cleaner and then thrown into one room at Foster's?
Yeah, no, there's the implication that they're constantly getting the scribbles from, like, parents of infants. And that any child can create these.
Wow, really? I've always read it that way. That's odd. Okay.
You think that they would give a backstory to a character without making it an insufferable movie? No. So bear in mind, not just Frankie. All children, all babies are capable of making scribbles. Seemingly there is just an endless supply of these things getting, like, shoveled like coal into a train's furnace into this room where there's seemingly infinite storage, almost in a Tesseract-like way. Children are constantly making imaginary friends, and yet there is enough of a need for imaginary friends that people do adopt them.
But the scribbles, fuck them kids. Throw them in the... I'm actually still blown away like that. Like, the implication is that, like, someone didn't just make them, but, like, they're a secret that needs to be locked. They keep happening? I guess they would keep happening. I don't think... Because, like, they never bring it up again.
it's odd to think, because it's not as if there was some cataclysmic event that prevents children from having more imaginary friends now. In later episodes, people make imaginary friends mid-episode.
But why don't we ever see them again? If, like, they're, like, a thing that babies do.
Because they realize that there's a profitable market in turning these semi-sapient creatures into living automatons for money! They sell them into indentured servitude! I don't think we really mentioned that in the synopsis, but the resolution to the episode is slavery! So, indentured servitude. Let's start. It's the beginning. It bookmarks the episode. You'll find it at the beginning and the end. But in the beginning, we learn how the function of fosters works. So, the idea is that the imaginary friends perform the household duties, which is a reasonable thing given that there's not staff and they stay there, like, rent-free, and it's seeming like they're not children. This is not like a boys' home, and remember, they're not kids. Don't call them a kid. They're an imaginary friend.
Yeah, so essentially the opening shots are of everyone doing chores, and then we end up with Frankie, Mac, Blue scrubbing floors on, like, the 37th floor, and Blue is just spraying air freshener for no reason because he's a dick. Even Mac's, like, okay on cleaning day, but Blue's like, nah, Febreze that shit.
By what right do they have to make Mac do their chores? Like, does Mac do... They effectively say that Mac is just sort of staying rent-free there, because Blue is not up for adoption. He's just kind of living there, like, as a sort of stowaway bum. So they say, okay, Mac, you can come and visit him, but you do have to do his chores for him, because he's such a fucking waste of space, and he can't even, like, do the basic tasks asked of him.
Pretty close.
I think that, like, Mac is only seconds away at any given point from just saying that he doesn't want to see Blue anymore, and goodbye, and then Blue, he gets...
Is that an episode of, like, alright, Blue, I'm not going back tomorrow, like, bye, you're super homeless. The main point here is, even Mac kind of agrees with Frankie that Blue's just being a dick here.
She has it hard enough, with Madame Foster just allowing this random crackhead into the place to just make life harder for her. And then, like, Mac does his best to, like, carry Blue's slack, but Blue is actively ruining things for them by, like, spraying perfume in her face just to dick around with her because he knows he can get away with it.
Anyway, Blue finds the secret door and is like, oh boy, secret door. Cue Harriman teleporting into the shot to tell him to fuck off.
Yeah, Mr. Harriman just jump scares the viewer, and he is not helping any of this. Neither he nor Frankie make a compelling case for why you should not open the secret door, only that he threatens to make Blue pay the ultimate price if he does. He's like and hits Blue the death threat. And honestly, I would like to see Mr. Harriman use his big, strong rabbit leg to kick Blue in the face. Can we just close our eyes again and imagine Mr. Harriman driving a steamroller?
I also think it's a good idea that Mr. Harriman will force Blue to pay the ultimate price and have the ability to kill him later.
Mr. Harriman is deputized to execute an imaginary friend on the spot. Like, what the fuck is the charter of this place? Like, what did Madame Foster, what kind of LSD binge was Madame Foster on when she wrote up what rights and responsibilities Harriman has, where she's just like, yeah, you're the judge, jury, and executioner.
If you open that secret door, we know how bad that door is. Like, just they pay the ultimate price. Deal with whatever that is, Mr. Harriman.
Actually, thinking about it, I straight up said I wish Harriman would kick Blue in the face, and then he does, and I'm really appreciative. I like in that moment. I felt like
when
Like, he tries to make a break for the door or something, and then he just fucking, like, kicks him. And I thought it was hilarious, and then, like a second later, in, like, a different scene, Mac just, like Blue's having a freak out, and Mac just punches him square in the face. People are assaulting each other constantly in this show. This show is great.
No, but Mac was allowed to hit Blue. I don't think that's a good sentence. Because Blue was having a freak out, so Mac gives him the cartoon snap out of it.
No. Max is allowed to hit Blue. I don't think legally, I mean, maybe legally. Imaginary friends are not treated as people, but ethically, yes. You should beat Blue within an inch of his life, and then go 2 inches further. So, this door, this fucking door, is just labeled "Do Not Open" or something to that effect. I'm surprised Blue can read.
After Mac justfully decides to smack Blue, maybe he should do it more, regardless. Blue goes on a montage of asking literally everybody in the house in weird ways like, "So, what's up with that secret door, my man?" Literally everyone runs away from him because they do not want to answer. It is not explained why everyone, like, is scared of talking about it. Is that just to be assumed that, like Mr. Harriman is like, don't tell anyone ever or you're dead?
I mean, the implication is that they all know the answer and don't want to talk about it, because fucking Cactus McSpiky Tits, we'll get back to that in a second, like, almost blabs it, but then her lips run away in one of the more odd visual gags this show has, but it almost reads like everyone has been exposed to the secret door at some point and has seen it happen, but the fact that it's suggested that it hasn't happened since Frankie was a little kid, which would be like 18 plus years
20
ago.
years ago.
It's like she would have been like maybe 4 at the most when that happened, with how she's like doing baby talk. Decades ago. So unless everyone here is a lifer, apparently, that means that this would have either had to have happened multiple times, or Harriman has just instilled the fear of death in all of them with his brutal regime.
I feel like that's a relevant point for the thought process behind this episode, or at least this half of the episode. Why are they afraid if they haven't known? Maybe the implication, like, is actually that all these people are lifers, and that Blue is asking the people who have been here fucking forever, like, I guess Wilt has, even though he's a great person. Why do they all know?
It's as if this is a stupid thing to do, and instead of saying it's a secret door, say, it's full of obnoxious screaming things that take forever to shovel in, and whoever opens it has to shovel them all back in. Now, Blue would open it anyway, granted. But
that's fair.
We could have saved ourselves so much time. I remember, there are some great quotes that we throw at each other here.
Secret walls and secret tribunals?
Oh yeah, I see it here. Blue was doing a stand-up where it's like, hey, you want to talk about secrets? Maybe like some secret doors. We need tons of secrets or something like that. And these are talking about, we need more secrets. We need stuff like secret walls, secret tribunals.
That's what Harriman has all the time.
Mr. Harriman is running he's got secret, like, court-martial trials. He's got secret revolvers. He's got a secret...
We will get back to this Harriman secret revolver.
Will we? That is so ominous. Okay, well, if we don't, assume that we've been shot with Harriman's revolver. There's this... Blue's talking to this imaginary friend who's just this cactus with a human face on it, but they've given her very large exposed cactus breasts, which there's so many times where I have to ask myself, what child thought of this? Like, what mentality do you need to have to create cactus titty thing? Like the fucking weed synapse man and lime-flavored pain elemental. What is anything happening in this? It's like, they're funny to look at until you think some child conceived these and forced it to live. And they will continue to live so long as Madame Foster finds it entertaining that they do.
In Blue's rampage, to find the origins of the secret door. We get, I don't know, this is an example of the show kind of trying to hurt us. So Blue is like, I want to know about the secret door. There's this fucking imaginary friend who's like all beard, like literally doesn't have feet, he only has arms, and is like in a rocking chair and is like, yeah, the secret of the secret door. You want to know about the secret door? And then we decided not to talk about it.
We timed it. Went on for exactly 69 seconds. Nice. Not nice was watching it. The experience of watching this fucking guy. I forgot how much I disliked this entire anti-joke. It's like a one big shaggy dog.
Yeah, exactly.
Story.
It's like,
and it's
beard guy's like, no,
he's not Beard Guy. Take that fucking back.
We can't keep clipping to back.
This is Guy Beard
being our background. Okay, this guy's Guy Beard. Guy Beard is, I think he shows up later. I don't really remember. Maybe sometimes. So Guy Beard is like fucking the worst. Like it's just a shaggy dog story, and there's like no point to his story. He's just like, well, the real story's more interesting. Fuck off, Blue. And it's not worth the payoff, and it hurts, and it's a bad joke, and it's example of them not knowing how to write things if, like, that's the shit that happens.
This is this vaguely Appalachian, like, caricature. He's there for way too long, he's not there.
Blue and his rampage tormented dreams has this, like, almost serious, like, montage of everyone telling him about the door and not to open it. And, like, I could imagine this dream being about, like, something serious and being, like, relatively interesting character moment, but it's not. And it's just him being tormented by the door in his dreams.
If Blue was a more sympathetic character and he weren't this sort of neurotic agent of pain, I feel like this would have worked from a sort of storytelling point of view. I know that's such a stupid thing to say. It's like, if this show were more serious, it would be better. If this show paid more attention to story, it would be great. It's like, no, it's what I'm saying is that I feel like we can't credit this scene. We can't say we want the show to be more like this scene. I feel like the fact that we want the show to be the one scene that's so out of tone with the rest of the show says that we'd rather be watching anything else but this show.
It's cool, like, dream sequence, but then it's like, why is it just about Blue being an ass? And he is. Blue is an ass. He opens the door. There are the scribbles. The next scene, Mac shows up, and it's like ocean of scribbles, and in kind of a good way. Mac like walks past Frankie and is like, "Where is he?" He knows.
So Mac approaches Frankie and Harriman and is like, "Hey, why the fuck was this allowed to happen?" And then Harriman was like, "We don't lock the door. Self-restraint is the strongest lock of all."
Come on, like, really? That's a really weak, like, that's just weak. Like,
bro,
they couldn't have even had a scene of, I don't know, Blue, like, stealing a key or something. Like, nope, wasn't locked. That's just a weak element.
This guy's allowed to talk about self-restraint all he wants. Blue lives in this house, and has lived in this house for some time, I'm guessing. Doesn't he know that self-restraint is not fucking in this guy's dictionary?
Blue moves in. Shit. Frankie, get like 20 locks. Just come on. Do it. Snap.
It's like, just honestly weld the thing. We'll put all future scribbles in the aforementioned hole in the ground where my secret tribunals dump people.
Mac is like, what the hell even are these things? Are they just like abominations? And then Frankie's like, well, they are technically imaginary friends. I mean, and then Fireman's like, they're made by babies. And then Mac, I don't know if this is like a good character moment or like a whatever the hell Mac is sometimes, but after learning that they're friends, like, I get like just imaginary friends, he then runs through the halls yelling, "Scribble liberty, free the scribbles," and like throwing them out of trash cans and stuff. And, like, he cares.
Mac respects the dignity of living creatures, and I think that is incredibly positive, and that's a warmth in the show that doesn't usually
Direct
exist.
action.
It is direct action. You're correct, but you never see people passionate about doing the right thing in this show. And Blue decides he wants to get in on this, not because he cares about Scribbles. Like, as soon as he discovered that they're inconvenient, he didn't want anything to do with them. But he's like, oh boy, chaos! That's my ideology!
Up with chaos! And then Mac kind of gets caught and then put in timeout with Blue for punishment, I guess.
What right do they have to put him in timeout? He's a customer, as far as I can tell. Like, they could...
No, he's like an adjacent to Blue, I guess.
I guess it's not really collective punishment because Mac did it and Blue did. They independently did wrong, so they got punished together. But, like, if Mac did wrong in the house and Blue did not, what would they do? Would they? The odds of Blue not doing wrong in the house are approaching zero. Granted,
what if only Mac did something wrong, and then it's like, oh, how do we actually punish this kid? And like, that isn't our kid who's just kind of showing up, and we're sort of a business. Sketchy.
Do we sort of coerce him by saying that if he doesn't sit in this room for a while, we won't let him visit again? It seems like that might be sort of like kidnapping him and Blue. Like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. Then Max...
No, you have to understand that the idea of Blue not getting into trouble is a non-factor. Literally impossible.
It's like asking what happens when an unstoppable force hits an immovable object. The answer is, well, one of them was wrong. You don't ask that question because it presumes circumstances which can't exist. So I write in my notes here, fucking Mac the neoliberal. I don't remember why...
Was that because they were like, lol, let's have the Scribbles do all the chores. They can do like one thing.
Oh yeah, because Mac just determines that Scribbles have to be useful for something to justify their existence, which I don't know if...
Oh yeah, that is kind of a point.
I don't know if that's a fault with Mac specifically, or if he's trying to work the system of Harriman's oppressive regime, but the fact that that's the first thing he thinks of is like, these things have worth? I mean, they can accomplish productive things! It's like, is the fact that they are alive not worth enough?
Yeah, maybe forcing them into productivity isn't the most important thing, but like, even them being alive, like, they are alive as much as, imaginary friends are alive. But them being, like, sapient is another question.
I feel as if they are capable of experiencing distress and pain. So
yes.
Clearly, putting them towards a task which is beyond their ability, or I would say below their dignity, could cause a Scribble pain. Scribbles also appear to have a sense of humor, or at least comedic timing. I don't know if that's simply imitation, but one Scribble, which Blue trains to blow raspberries, seems to know when to do it. So Scribbles are capable of processing and reacting to stimuli.
Connor, I'm just saying, I don't think we're at the ability to actually have an interesting, like, dissertation about animal or imaginary friend cognition, but Scribbles don't ever, like, talk or anything. So, like,
they vocalize,
they kind of just do
though.
things.
Like, Coco doesn't talk, but people understand her. A mute person doesn't talk. Does that mean they're a fucking object?
Yes.
Fucking Agent 5 coming up with the most controversial take.
I actually did a lot of research into animal cognition, and like, it's actually really interesting.
People.
Well, like, they're not people.
What, by what?
Not mute people, but Scribbles.
Okay, I was like, are there mute people?
I'm actually not against mute people. What the fuck, Connor?
Agent 5, it's like, fuck mute people. You want to talk about living objects? Fucking the ironing board imaginary friend. What the fuck is this creature?
So there's this, like, visual gag, and there's this, like, tall imaginary friend wearing a robe, and he tells, like, the Scribble to, like, iron, and you're like, okay, so he's gonna do the ironing chore. But the Scribble then, like, floats behind him as he lays flat like an ironing board, and the Scribble irons his back.
There's an imaginary friend named Clumsy whose sole function is to fall over and injure himself. I'm telling you, there are some sick fucks out there that are making some of these. Like, so they're like, hey, by the way, scribbles can accomplish simple tasks. And then they put the scribbles towards the tasks that they were doing in the beginning of the episode. And there's a caveat that scribbles can't do multiple things at once, which doesn't...
It's irrelevant, because they can learn one skill, but if there's a million of them, it doesn't matter. And then everyone's just lazy. Like, that's the extent of it.
I want to ask, like, first of all, scribbles are obviously capable of more than one task, because tasks are complicated things, and scribbles seemingly have very little division of labor. Like, Blue will occasionally assign them to multiple parts of a job, but scribbles seem to be capable of manipulating, if not multiple objects at once, then at the very least multiple objects in sequence. They seem to be very capable of performing a complex task, but moreover than that, the plot point of scribbles not being able to perform more than one task at any time does not matter, because they never mention it again, and it didn't matter.
It is an interesting plot point that Frankie, like, tells a scribble to do too much, and then after Blue calms it down, it never comes up again. I don't think scribbles ever come up again, do they? I think we may see a couple in the background sometimes, but, like, it doesn't matter.
I don't know. So, a day passes, and all of the imaginary friends become just layabouts. They accomplish nothing. The scribbles are raising hell in Harriman's office. Blue becomes Abaddon, the Prince of Decadence, on a throne of scribbles. Like, what the fuck is this?
Okay, that's a lot. And then, as we said before, like, a family comes in and is like, we want an imaginary friend for our son. And then they're like, oh, hey, that scribble abomination doing chores would be great. We fucking love slaves.
It's like, we need an imaginary friend for our kid. Oh shit, let's get the most utilitarian imaginary friend possible, which will accomplish nothing, cannot communicate with our child, ambiguously cannot be communicated to by our child. It just
perfect
performs.
Lots.
This family immediately lost the plot of why they were there, and then Mac and Harriman come up with a brilliant idea of, oh shit, they're imaginary friends. That means they have no rights. That means we can pawn them off onto people for profit. So they create this fucking racket where they start selling scribbles as imaginary friends.
Okay, in the show, it's just kind of made that all the scribbles have been adopted for their services as slaves and or indentured servants. Like they don't have personalities, but everyone's just like, oh, my scribble does X chore. That is a racket.
So then the final act of the episode begins where, like, they're faced with this sort of moral dilemma that, oh fuck, we just sold a bunch of sapient creatures into, like, permanent servitude for our own gain because we thought they were inconvenient, but we need to take responsibility for these. We took a responsibility for all imaginary friends. We need to look out for them the same. No, wait. That's the end of the episode. The plot.
That's a good point. That is a good point.
The plot was resolved by someone else's problem. They're now automatons for the service of the people, and that raised the question of why nobody else ever came up with this, and why no one else has been collecting scribbles to become robots. Do you think that manufacturing employs the use of scribbles? Do you think that scribbles might have had an industrial use at one point, and this was kept under wraps to prevent competition? There's so much room to speculate, because there's so much more episode that we didn't get, because it just ends.
It's true, we are missing up on a final act. It's the ending joke of the episode is like, there's one left, and it's the one that Blue trained to blow raspberries, and that's the funny one, I guess, that nobody wanted. Yay.
It's, by all accounts, the episode shouldn't have ended then.
Where did they go? So the way that it was presented was that, like, a person got a scribble. So, what? Was it like a bargain basement? Like, come on down to Foster's home. Get a fucking scribble. Everyone in the goddamn city, pick up a goddamn scribble.
I thought we said that Guy Beard never came back again. How dare you? There were millions of that. There were enough to flood an entire Willy Wonka factory of a house. They would have needed to dispense scribbles to the entire world to get these things out. And seemingly because Foster's is the only foster home for imaginary friends, I guess they do service the entire world. But I think what's more likely is that they just decided to sell them to, like, fucking Ford or, like, someone like that, and then just made an assembly line of scribbles where they're being constantly burned and singed from the experience. My point is, I would like to say I don't understand what the thought process of the show is, but the more I think about it, the more I think I do understand, and this show just has a very misanthropic, sort of anarcho-capitalist worldview in which people are constantly being turned into servants for whoever is above you, and the best way to get someone out of your hair is to turn them into a useful idiot and then profit off them.
Why did they have to sell them? I don't get anything about the scribbles. Like, I kind of like your episode idea of, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't literally sell scribbles, like these pet monkey things, for servitude for fun, because they do too much work and that's annoying for our... What? Is it even bad? Like, why are they lazy? It's such a wacky, like, they instantly all become turbo lazy because they don't do chores. Like, that's so weird. What about, like, I could imagine an episode continuation of this, like, I don't know, all the scribbles at the end of the episode, I don't know, merge into one turbo scribble that's sentient and then just becomes a friend that lives in the house, and then does a normal amount of chores or something. But, like, this wacky, like, and then they're done. We never see them again. Problem solved.
Just this idea that having the scribbles perform chores for the imaginary friends makes them lazy is the ultimate cop-out, because it allows you to avert the moral question of should these things be doing what they are doing, and it's like, well, no, because it makes you fat and lazy. It's like, never is the moral weight of making the scribbles act against their will itself examined, but also it's got this almost strong, like, sort of Adam Smith argument that if you are not being made to perform one singular task, you'll become slothful, and therefore we need this strong division of labor so as to keep you sharp in your wits and in your place.
That's a pretty accurate reading. I don't think that's far from base at all.
But, like, let's examine the fact that the solution is to pawn the scribbles off onto other families. Surely, if the logic of the episode is consistent, that will also make the families lazy and inflict that sort of moral decadence on them, which doesn't solve the issue as much as it makes it everyone else's problem.
And as we all know, only Blue is allowed to be Abaddon, Prince of Decadence, laying on a couch made of flesh.
It's like, he's like, examine that from another point of view, and he is actually just a chaos god. So I don't know necessarily what we learned from these episodes. We learned from the show...
I agree. I have no idea what we were learning from this episode. That Star Wars was a case of Blue being a wacko, Coco potentially having hidden depths that maybe even the show writers didn't understand. And then Trouble with Scribbles is this weird labor discussion.
There are deeper conversations to be had watching this show that were almost certainly never intended to be had, but I feel as if just watching episodes of this show just kind of peels back a curtain into what the sort of zeitgeist of the Bush era would have been, or maybe just the particular thoughts of whoever it was working on. But I feel like you kind of just, like, take a scalpel and make a surgical incision to the show, and then the guts just fall right out. It almost tells itself.
This episode's a nightmare.
we like my gym partner. This show is in fact somewhat of a nightmare with its somewhat good qualities, and then its many weird decisions that really drag it down for being like the movie for some reason.
So I don't know what we're going to find next time we put our instruments into the beast that is this show. Like, maybe like a horrific, like, Cthulhu pinata.
What would you rate that episode?
I gave that a 6. I preferred that one to the mall episode.
You gave the other one a 2. What's it on this rate? What's on the actual scale?
Adjusted for my shitty previous stance, it's a 4, but like I gave it a 6 on the whatever scale I gave the previous one a 4, I gave this one a 6, meaning that I liked this one better at the time. I feel like it has a much worse moral thinking about it, but at the very least it was not like actively beating my head against a wall. Okay, fucking Einstein, what did you think about it?
The plot structure of this episode, while being radically different than the first one, essentially revolves around 2 focused halves. We have Blue going insane from his secret door for, well, essentially no reason, which kind of doesn't make any sense. We have the non-jokes of Guybeard, the giant walking beard man. Oh, wait, no, he doesn't walk because he doesn't have feet. And then the latter half of the episode resolves after Mac's tirade is essentially about the Scribbles just doing chores and nothing much, and that the jokes of Blue being a lazy piece of shit don't really matter. So, as a whole, I feel like this episode doesn't contribute really anything. While the ideas of Scribbles are somewhat interesting, I'm not a fan of the direction it took, because I totally fucking thought that Frankie made all of them and that was interesting, but they're just like dust bunnies. Actually, for nothing of value.
I'm Connor Harrington.
And I'm Agent 5. Until next time.
We'll come up with an outro. We did it last time, we'll do it this time.
The Scribbles do make the honey, we get the money.
What is this? What's that B movie?
It was B movie.
I don't know why I work with you.